The central message of my book, though spread into essays, but the central theme is maintained through the fiber of the essays, and it is otherism. It is a word that a lot of people are neglecting, including journalists. They are. Did I say what now? Did I say they are excluding in their stories? They are not sensitive to it, and so I'm bringing it into the attention of the people that the present, especially government in South Africa, is using otherism in a very broad and deep sense, and people are still blind to that, very myopic to that, because people are afraid of calling this government a neo-apartheid government. I'm neither calling it, shouting that it's a neo-apartheid government, but it is. It is. You know why I'm not doing that? Because I don't want to sound like a demagogue. I'm just looking at the way they do things and using otherism as a political science to continue to control the minds of the people, to put people in their place, to do this and that. For instance, what comes to mind immediately is when they keep on calling people the poorest of the poor. I hate that. Who gave them license to call our people the poorest of the poor, unless they know something that we don't know, So those are some political cliches that keep people trapped. Right. It's like religion that says you are a sinner, and every time you look at yourself, you see yourself as a sinner. So you are trapped in that realm of sin, the picture of sin. Your whole psyche is about I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner. But I know that the New Testament does a brilliant job in cleaning up that, and...
So my question then becomes, when you refer as the poorest of the poor, as otherism, and you say otherism, maybe to be politically correct, you're saying it's a political mechanism of controlling the minds of the people, or manipulating the people into maybe voting.
Yes.
Okay, so now there is this other occurring phenomenon currently, but it's globally used by many global governments. It's called affirmative action. Is affirmative action therefore part of otherism? To make a quick example, we go, me and you, to apply for a job, right? A person who's likely to get the job, it's a person who's regarded as the poorest of the poor, or a previously disadvantaged person. So is that part of otherism?
Well, it is to an extent, to a degree. That's why even within the ruling party itself, there are people who are not so happy with affirmative action, especially today. It could have played a part in the beginning of things, but extending it, its elasticity does not help anybody.
Right.
It ultimately discriminates against others. That's why when we talked, outside, I said I don't even want to use words like discrimination, because perhaps they are too soft, because this is a deep science of doing otherism. For instance, what comes to mind immediately with affirmative action, there is this guy in the Western Cape, Glenn Snyman. Glenn Snyman, yes, applied for a post as a principal somewhere, and he put his identity as African, and they were about to
his application.
Yes, but others also were able to get the information, availed to themselves, and they used it to attack him as a person. That, by the way, you are a colored man. You are a damn colored.
So they are saying you are not an African.
You are not an African. You understand? What right have they got to tell somebody he's not an African? They are colored. Why blow up the colored ethnicity, the colorism ethnicity, when people are not blowing up the Bapedi ethnicity, the Zulu ethnicity? People are not blowing up that, they also try to confuse us, because they say these are colors, these are Indians, these are black. Africans, the native Africans, the native descent is African, is black. You understand? It works for them politically. They keep on saying, but it's like I suspect that it was a deal struck at Codesa. The grote skier minutes, Skelmgoede. You know, I think they dealt with such issues that, listen, you can have your blacks, you can have your Africans, but for heaven's sake, you must keep onze brain mense, the colors. You must keep them in their own corner. You must keep on calling them colored. You must keep on calling Indian. Because even when you sign forms, you can say black. What is black? It's blood, black. And then others, and then the form also has colored and Indian. And white, I suppose, because I don't deal with bureaucracy a lot. You understand? But if you said, I'm South African, they might, they might feel that you are trying to be impossible. You are not politically correct, and so on.
We have the Rainbow Nation
that
suggests that we are all equal.
Yeah.
We are all of the same country.
Mm-hmm.
But still on forms and on deals and on policy, they still divide us. You're an Indian, you're a colored, you're a African. But they come again and tell us that we are one. But they divide us in ways that the naked eye cannot.
Yes, when are we non-racial to them? We are non-racial when we are dead or when we are criminals. They will say a man broke into a house. They don't say a white man or black man anymore. It's a man. A woman shoplifted, stuff like that. 5 people died in a motor vehicle accident in Mpumalanga. Now suddenly they don't have color. But when they come back, to the real issues, they are still people of certain description, ethnicity. You are either black, colored, Indian, or white.
But again, where it becomes, if you are saying they are using otherism, where that becomes flawed, it's go BEE.
Mm-hmm.
It is said that black, Indian, and colored are all black.
Yes, is also.
Is that still otherism?
Huh?
Is that still otherism? It's black, proud black economic empowerment.
It's not practical, man.
So
it's never practical. It's like if you are a student in Bloemfontein, you wanted residence. They listen to your accent. And if you don't sound white enough, or even with a touch of Afrikaner accent, you don't get that space. And so when you say, what did you say? The BEE? Yes.
It's still the Indians, the colored, the Chinese.
Yes.
And the Africans.
Yes.
Are all considered.
By the way, they also contrived this whole thing on making Chinese black as well. They hardly said they're brown. Yellow. No, they became black. Now, that is all political maneuvering, because they will still select. They will still see whether you are Nkosi or Klassen. If you are Klassen, they probe deeper, and you don't get the same rights as Nkosi.
If you don't other in your ways,
yes,
if you don't other people, how then are we going to make sure that we address the previous injustices that were done by the apartheid regime using the same otherism, right?
Yeah.
Because the apartheid regime used otherism blatantly.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do not use it blatantly, how are we going to address the injustices done to black people?
Yeah.
Because then we'll be saying we want to address injustice.
Why do you call ourselves a non-racial society, but we are very shy of being non-racial? Mwalimu Nyerere, Julius Nyerere, yes, he cancelled off, expunged all that out of the system, and the tribal identities and so on, and he created that nation which speaks Swahili, which is unifying and so on. So why can't we do that? We can't do it outrightly and fast enough, because we are still stuck in the grote skier minute. You understand, people were giving instructions that, for heaven's sake, make sure that you keep Western Cape colored. You understand? And then thereby you deny the Western Cape people a full South Africanness. And I'm not Mzondi Lemanya. I'm not saying spread them over the country, but I'm saying that in very subtle ways, you keep them there, and you keep them there with a whole baggage of criminality. You keep them there, they die, their children there is a stray bullet hitting only colors in Mitchell's Plain and Bokmakiri, every other day. It is, and nobody takes it up. Nobody takes it up very strongly. Not even media takes it up that colors are being targeted by the system, used in the hand of the criminals.
I think
an alternative government. The system is already creating alternative governments, the Robin Hood kind of government, because that's where I last time I talked about the third economy. People pretend in South Africa you have the first and the second economy just because Thabo Mbeki said. But Thabo Mbeki knew that he was also responsible for the third economy. And his government is responsible for the third Mchosha Pansi economy.
So now here's an interesting
yes.
Okay, so we'll come back to
Mchosha Pansi.
The apartheid regime.
Yes.
Blatant that when you are colored, or when you are Sotho, or when you are Zulu, you must be the resident of this province.
Yes.
And in order for you to come to Gauteng, you need a certain document that will indicate for how long will you reside, or are you coming here to work in Gauteng or what. But in a democratic government that we have there are no such laws. So that means a colored person still has a choice to come and reside in.
Yes.
So why then are you blaming the democratic government for a conscious decision? This is interesting. For a conscious decision taken by the colored community or the Zulu people. So it's when you use otherism and what you just explained, it is as if you are saying it is this government that keeps the people there.
What you are saying is not completely real, because the people from the Eastern Cape are spread all over the country. They spread themselves. The people from the north, Limpopo, they spread themselves. The Amazulu people spread themselves all over the country, and the colors are deliberately kept from spreading themselves. It's by machination that speaks to them, keeping them, in a way like you go to America. In America, when you want votes, you know that I have an Irish vote in a certain area, I have a Hispanic vote in a certain area, I have a black vote in a certain area. So it works there for a certain vote. Either that works for the former apartheid or also works for the present government.
Right.
And in that, there is a lot of neglect. Whereas the colors were second-class citizens during apartheid, today they are almost fourth-class citizens, because they are the West poor and they are deluded all the time.
And this is part of otherism.
Yes.
And you're saying it's deliberate.
It is deliberate.
Let's talk about this more on the coming episode.
Okay.
So Babu Njabulo Vilakazi, you're saying the colored community they are the victims of this thing that you call otherism. They are being deliberately managed. They are being deliberately downgraded. If I use that term. They do not have service delivery. They are almost like neglected. And you say the deliberate strategy.
It is.
Part of otherism.
Yes, it is. There's always been a genocide also against them. It must be very subtle. There's a language genocide. They took their language from them because these
cultural genocide.
Yes, cultural genocide, because Khoisan, Afrikaans is Khoisan. Its roots are in Khoisan. And they took the language and deposited in the elitist space for themselves, and they continued to use the colored as a buffer against the so-called native. And the natives is what they used to call the K word. I could pronounce that word, but I don't know what happens to you when you pronounce it today. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But without incriminating myself, I've said it already.
You've said it.
You know, so the colors have always been used as that kind of a pawn, as a buffer zone against the majoritarian black people and so on. And everybody's playing ground. The animals called Satu in education, they would deny them their kids to have they would get black fellows to become principals in those areas of the colors, the Westberries and others, you know, and then they would also have a mechanism of barring the colored fellows to be principal in Zola and Zondi. You understand? Not even in Maryland. That sounds white. They would not allow them to be principal there, but they must be principal in Reche Park. They must be principal everywhere else. And
again, I will say, when you say there's no service delivery in colored areas.
Yes.
When you say they are neglected, you will be obviously comparing them to blacks of neighborhoods.
Yes.
Where there is service delivery, there are government interventions there.
Yes.
But again, if you compare the black community to the Indian community, you find out that the government led by black people, it's delivering in the Indian community. It's delivering in the white community.
Yes.
There would be an incident in a white community, they report it.
Yes.
The government will rush there.
Yes.
But in the black community,
with all due respect to Indians, they have become the second class now. And in the areas that used to be called Transvaal, say the up north, the colors are being punished also for being different, for voting differently, for making their own political choices. So they neglect them. They are the perennial sellout in their minds. Whereas, inversely, there's a strategy in the Western Cape to keep them there for political reasons of being governed by DA, so to say, so that they're kept there, and there is space for the elites of the Western Cape, the white elites of the Western Cape, to have the buffer always there for them, and you understand what I mean.
So you've touched on this before. Quickly we move, because it's as if now we are focusing on colors.
Yeah.
Before we move, there is gangsterism.
Yes.
You've touched slightly in passing.
Mm-hmm.
You said it's being mastered, it's being influenced.
Yes.
What can you maybe deliberate more? What causes so much gangsterism in the colored community?
It has definitely gone out of hand after the so-called rainbow era. It is during this regime that has we had a very quiet colored Western Cape and colored townships. There have always been gangsterism in Alexandra, in Kofifi and all that, But but it's exponential now in the Western Cape, because that's where the drugs are coming in. That's where all the contraband is being used there and so on. It is they are used to drive the underground economy.
Yeah.
They are the cannon fodder for the underground economy. And even when Kaele shows up there, it is just like a showing up, with his hat and go into some family. But I can bet you every day a colored child dies because perhaps their family are resisting to be controlled by an alternative government. The churches there are quiet because most of the pastors in the churches have got their houses in elite areas, in suburbs and so on. They are paid well. They're unlike the pastors around here in our churches who stay in mission houses. No, those guys stay in upper class places and they are not affected by the crime. So even the so-called Western Cape Council of Churches is quiet against crime. Somebody says they're afraid, they can't do anything about it. That's very limp, yeah? I don't know why did I say this, but somebody, a friend of mine, said that. But they're all manipulated. You understand what I mean? Yes.
Otherism is manipulation.
Yes. You'd rather have more feeding schemes in the Western Cape than anywhere else. Pump feeding schemes. Let them have some bread, but let them have the bread together with cocaine and so on. It's not only...
I know, but not as a fact. I would like to state on record, not as a fact.
Yeah.
It's called conspiracy. Maybe someone will call, absolutely I know, someone will call what we are sharing here or what you are sharing here as conspiracy. I know there is conspiracy that in the United States of America, the black community is also suffering the same consequence of the colored community. That there are drugs being dumped there. Gangsterism is sponsored.
Yes.
Now, but the intention in that part of the world, according to conspiracy theories, it's clear.
It's not conspiracy, my brother. Yes. It's not. It's real. Yes, it's not. Conspiracy. People in America, the so-called penitentiary, they call them the jail houses there, are controlled not only by state, but the deeper pockets, the rich people. They control the jail houses there, and so for the jail houses to prosper, you have to have more black people go into jail. It's like Busasa here. For Busasa to thrive, to give more foodstuffs to Pretoria Central and so, you need black people to go to jail. Busasa is a modern day slave trade. That is a modern day slave trade out there. And you see, and for instance, every other kid in the Western Cape, every other kid, matriculation is in jail. I'm not talking about the letters matriculation, but like psychological matriculation and social matriculation is through the jail system. Most of them are 28 and so on and whatnot.
So I was going to say, in the States,
yes,
the mission, it's out there. The people are talking about the mission and they're saying it's to wipe out black people. And the other guy suggests that there is an agenda to create a mixed race there. But you won't find black people. You will find they're called Hispanic. So what's the agenda now?
Well, in many cases, they although they have more Hispanics marrying white, but they have a lot of black celebrities marrying white as also. So it is a kind of mixing. That's right. So and by the way, black people are a minority. The colors are a minority here. It is a system of zombifying people. It is they need the zombie more than anything else in certain areas. Especially they have earmarked the Western Cape for zombification. And it has always worked for them. Why shouldn't it work for you? I can imagine Hitler telling guys across the table, hey, it worked for us. Why can't it work for you?
So now, what's the alternative if we are not othering?
Yes.
By the way, you're saying we as blacks will also other.
Yes.
Everyone. Why is it otherism? Divide and conquer.
Divide and rule, yes. Divide and conquer, as you say. That is the scheme all the time. You see, for instance, Ramaphosa is supposed to have grown up in Shawelo. He suddenly has forgotten how Shawelo people behave. He suddenly has forgotten that after the 15th, when he will open everything else, the people will be drunk to pieces in the townships. He has suddenly forgotten that if this corona thing goes up again, the hype, whatever they call it, it is the black folks who go. So we are cannon fodder again of even Codesa and so. And Ramaphosa is doing it consciously. So who's Ramaphosa? And in some pages in my book, I actually call him a colored as well, because ANC treats him like a colored, like they would treat colors. You see, what has come out very clearly, that the ANC is anti-colors. Now, there are factions who are treating Ramaphosa like he were a colored, you know, or even a Tsotsi, you know.
Indian, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Julius Malema.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of otherism. Julius Malema has highlighted on even Floyd Shivambu. They've indicated that there is an Indian cabal in the ANC. You're saying Jesse is saying Talat Zarani. But the other ones are saying there is an Indian.
Are you suggesting that Jesse is an Indian?
I'm asking if
okay.
you're saying there is, Jesse word confirmed, and there is a colored influence. Are you saying therefore these ones could be right, that there is an Indian influence?
Well, the ANC has always feared the so-called Indian cabal. It's almost ageless now, and because you know the Indian society has always been more united than the African society, because they are a minority, and even religious wise in many ways. So people who are victims on the lower rung of things are likely to fear that power, the clout that they have, even in politics and so on. People like Dr. Dadu, you know, was highly respected of the Indian Congress Party. When he came into the ANC, it was like, oh, Father Christmas has come here. You understand what I mean? You understand? And today, they have ostracized their own Paulo Jordan. They don't want to call him doctor anymore. And it is all ANC othering people. Dr. Jordan has been othered because he sounds like an American, his accent, and he's more clever than them. He's a real doctor. So far as I'm concerned, that nigger stays doctor. You understand what I mean? and people are now shy of calling him doctor. But they used him even in Dakar and other places where they were outgunned by the Boers educationally. Boers came with a lot of doctors, so-and-so professor, so-and-so ANC didn't have such many people. So Dr. Jordan had to be Dr. Jordan then. But once he came back into the country and he was not playing ball all the time, they said, we'll get him. It is the ANC who exposed everything about. It's not from outside. They were destroying him. Well, it's very interesting that it happened during Jay-Z's government. Jay-Z's government.
So now, what is the way forward?
Jay-Z's government, Thabo Mbeki has always wanted a way to deal with Paulo Jordan, and perhaps Jay-Z ultimately dealt with him.
Now, are you saying Jay-Z was in agreement with Thabo Mbeki? They seem to never have agreed on many things, especially regarding the direction of the country.
Well, people like Ben Turok and Paulo Jordan always challenge the status quo. So the ANC is an organization that you don't challenge the status quo. They do something about you. So it's, So Jay-Z and Thabo Mbeki become cattle of the same.
So now I know we'll issue links.
Yeah.
Very soon about the book. Now, when can people expect the book to be out?
In a few days. In a few days now. We're working hard to release it in a few days.
So it will be an ebook.
It will be an ebook.
How much a copy?
Well, I still have to consult with experts like yourself. I mean, to tell me exactly how to do it, the marketing side and all those things. So I'm not going to play very important and they say it will be $79. You understand? I'm not going to play that important.
Okay.
You see, I'm still a rookie. Although I've been a writer for a long time,
Yes.
I've written columns in Sunday World of the past, City Press. I've written columns. I'm a founder member of Midupi Writers Association. I wrote poetry. I published in poetry magazines. I've been around. You understand what I mean? But you guys are here now, and you are running issues. So I cannot say to you, Grandpa knows everything. I mean, Grandpa can listen to. If I don't listen to you, I'm in trouble.
Thank you very much, Paul Njabulo Vilakazi, for having this conversation. As you all know, we're going to continue having this conversation and exposing a lot of information. We're not saying the conversation or information here is right, but giving you something to think about. You will decide whatever you decide. Do follow us on the website www.turead.co.za. Share it with people. Follow us on Facebook @TureadSA, and like every link there. Tell people to tell other people that the show is on. Thank you.